Hi, hello, dear friends. Welcome back to our channel once again, Vage Academy of Mathematics. This session, we have the question paper of 2012 June, UGC NET paper 1. And again, we are about to solve questions from arithmetic and reasoning sections. This question paper, we have very challenging questions from all these topics. Let's give a try. Let's try to solve these questions one by one. Moving to the first question. Yeah, here is our first question. Question number 1 is actually a reasoning question, and this is from the topic arrangements. So let's see the question. What is asked? 6 persons A, B, C, D, E, and F are standing in a circle. So that means this is a circular arrangement question. Okay, so that means let's do a thing. Whenever we happen to get questions from circular arrangement, we'll just draw a rough circle and we'll have to position the members who are in this circle. Okay, and see how many people are there. It's given that there are 6 people, right? So that means let's just mark some 6 positions here. 1, here 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6. Let's have it like this. Okay, I've just roughly drawn these members. Okay, so there are 6 people here and they are going to be seated like this. And yes, now let's go see the conditions, the way how they are sitting. It is given B is between F and C. So we have the first condition given to be B is between F and C. The second condition is A is between E and D. And we have one more condition, third condition, that says F is to the left of D. This is what we have in the question. So with these 3 given conditions itself, we'll have to try to position all the 6 members A, B, C, D, E, F in this circle. This is our objective. Let's try to do that. And always remember one thing, whenever we come to solve a circular arrangement question, we can always position the first person in our own position. Okay. So the first person, it is our own choice. It is totally our choice to position the first person because it will never disturb the problem or it won't affect the arrangement of these persons. Okay, that's the reason. So here also, let's try to start with the very valid or very useful condition. See here, it is given the first statement, it is given the first condition, it is given B is between E and C, A is between E and D. So that means we'll have to know where E and C are sitting. Between them is what we have to position this B. Similarly, between the positions of E and D is what I have to position this A. And the third one says F is to the left of D. So that means here, this last condition involves only 2 people. See, the first 2 conditions, we have 3 people there, but the last one is involving only 2 people. So that means we are free to use this third condition. So let's start from the third condition that says F is to the left of D. This is what is given. So that means let's try to do a thing. Let's position the person D in one of these 6 positions. Okay. So let's take this one, this slot. Okay, let us just position the person D here, and according to this condition, F is to the left of D. So that means F will be to the left side of D. See here, that means we can position this F, the person F here. I think you're able to understand this. If D is here, then definitely F will be to his left hand side. Okay, so to his left, this is what happens. So D to his left, we are positioning F. And as told in the beginning itself, we are free to fix the first person. Okay, it's our choice. So that's the reason we are fixing D here. Okay, yeah. Now it will be very easy for us to use the other 2 conditions. Now let's start with the first condition. We have already used the third condition. Now let's use the first condition. First condition says B is between E and C. So B is between E and C. I'm sorry, B is between F and C. That is what is given, right? Yeah, this is actually F. So the way I've drawn is not looking better. Yeah. I'll just erase it and show you so that the question looks even more better. See here. Yeah. This first condition actually says B is between F and C. So that means now we can be very, very sure B is between F and C. See here, F and C, it is what is given. So that means we have two choices to fix the person S. Sorry, we can fix the person C because we have C either positioned here or we can have C positioned here. Is that clear? Only then we will be having B to sit or B to be standing between F and C. See here, B is standing between F and C. That is what is given. So that means I can either have F and C where they have one position in between, or F and C where here we have one position in between. But this one, see here, F and C, this one we already have one person in the middle who is D. So that means we cannot have this possibility. So let us just erase this possibility. And that means C can be positioned only at this position. Fine. Yes. So now we will just see the first condition logically. B is between F and C. That means no doubt B will be here only. So position B here. So F and C, between those two people, we have B here. Yes. Next, what else we have? We'll see. We have the second condition also, which says A is between E and D. A is between E and D. Fine. So if A is between E and D, now we have no other choice. E must be here. Only when we will have only one position in between E and D. Now again, read the second statement. A is between E and D. Position A, E here. So that we will have A in between this D and E. Very simple. Okay. So that means we have clearly got all the six people's arrangements, the positions. Now it will be very easy for us to get the answer to this question. Question asks who is between A and F. So it's very easy to say who is between A and F. Between A and F, we have only one person who is D, and D is the answer. So which option matches with D? Option C says D. So that means option C is going to be the correct answer for this question. I think you're able to understand this. So only thing we have to remember is whenever in circular arrangement, we can always fix the first person. It is our own choice. So we fix it, and accordingly, based on the given conditions, we have to try to fix the other people's position also. And this will easily give us the answer. Move on to the second question. Question number 2 is actually from percentages. Not a very hard question. Very easy question is what we have. So let's see the question. The price of the petrol increases by 25%. So again, a percentage question we have. So here again, as usual, we have tried many questions of this pattern in our previous year's set of question papers itself. So price of petrol increases by 25%. Then by what percentage must a customer reduce the consumption so as to maintain the earlier bill? This is our question. So once again, a question based on price, then consumption, then expenditure. Okay, price, consumption, and expenditure. Let me write in short terms. Yeah, price, consumption, and expenditure. And here we have original and the new. So two cases are there, right? Because petrol's price originally it was some value and it is going to increase by 25%. That is what is given in the first statement. You can notice it. So that means we have two cases. That's the reason we have two rows, original and new, and three columns for price, consumption, and expenditure. So this is the usual way we always proceed this kind of percentage question. Let's proceed the same way for this question also. Yes. Let's have the original price. As usual, we'll take the original price to be 100 because we play with percentage. 100 would be a very nice number. So original price of petrol, let's have it to be 100 rupees. Okay. Let's have it to be 100 rupees per liter. Okay. Let's just have it to be 100 rupees per liter. It is actually not 100 rupees per liter. Maybe we can expect it in days very soon. For our problem, let's considering the convenience, let's have it to be 100 rupees per liter. Yeah, consumption. Let us have the consumption to be 10 liters. Okay. Let's just have the customer is consuming 10 liters. So that means what would be the expenditure? Expenditure would be definitely 1000 rupees. Is it or not? Because 100 per liter and 10 liters if the customer is buying. So 100 into 10 would give us 1000 rupees. So 1000 rupees is going to be the expenditure. And what is our question? If the price of the petrol is increasing by 25%, so that means what should be the new price of the petrol? Original price was 100 according to our assumption, and what would be the new price? New price would be 25% more. That means 100 plus 25% of 100. We know that 25% of 100 is just 25, so that means the new price would be 125 rupees per liter. Original price was 100 rupees per liter, but new price is 125 rupees per liter. Okay, but now again the expenditure is the same, because it is given that the expenditure should not change. Okay, so that the earlier bill on the petrol used on the petrol does not alter. That means it maintains, it remains to be a constant. It is the same now also. And now what happens to the consumption? This is what we have to calculate. Okay, previously the customer can buy 10 liters for 1000 rupees, but this time the price has increased. Now how much liters that customer can buy for the same 1000 rupees? This is our question. See, the price has increased, right? So 125 rupees. So that means let's try to divide and see. 1000 divided by 125. So 1000 divided by 125 will be, this is 25 times, and this is 200 times. So 200 by 25 will be 8 liters. Is it or not? So that means now the customer can consume only 8 liters. He can buy only 8 liters for the same budget. I mean, for the same 1000 rupees, right? So see here, it is asked how much percentage the consumer should reduce. This is our question. Okay, so that means once again here we have to calculate the percentage change. Percentage change here, particularly percentage decrease. How much percentage is decreasing? So we very well know the formula. What should we do? We have to take the difference by original and multiply this fraction into 100. We have done many questions. You can see the previous sessions also, previous videos also. I mean the previous year's videos. There also we have tried many questions like this. By seeing those questions, you would get an idea. We use the same formula, whether we find percentage increase or percentage decrease. We do the same formula, use the same formula here. So let's do the same thing here and come here. See the original consumption. Original consumption was 10 liters. And new consumption is 8 liters. Take the difference. What is the difference between 10 and 8? 10 and 8 difference is just we have to minus 10 minus 8, right? So that means it will give us 2. And what is the original consumption? Original consumption is 10 liters. So 2 by 10 into 100. So this will give us 0 and 0 cancel. So 2 into 10 will give us 20%. So that means the customer should decrease by 20%, which is matching with option A. And option A is going to be the correct answer. So a same kind of question. So it seems every year a question of this pattern is repeating. It gets repeated. Only the numbers are changing. But other than that, we have the same concept to be used. See, the same formula is what we are using. Whether it is percentage increase or percentage decrease, we use the same formula, difference by original into 100. So get that, substitute it, simplify it, you will get the answer. That's it, right? Yeah. Now coming to the third question. Third question is once again a very easy question only. It's a kind of number reasoning. So let's see what is there in the question. Question number 3. If Ram knows that y is an integer greater than 2 and less than 7, that is, Ram is the first person. He is saying that y is an integer. Integer means it is a number which is a whole number without fractions or without decimals. It is a whole number. Okay. And Ram knows that this integer y, I mean y is taking some integer value. We don't know what value is y taking, but Ram knows that the value of y is greater than 2 and less than 7. See here, this is how we can represent. Okay, y is greater than 2 and less than 7. This means what? Y can take all the values which are in between this 2 and 7. Remember that y should be more than 2 and less than 7. That means what are all the values we are allowed to take for y? We can take y to be 3, or we can take y as 4, or it can be 5, or it can be 6. Only these values. Remember, we cannot take 2.5, 2.25, 3.7. These values are not allowed. Why? Because they are all decimal numbers. Okay. It is clearly given that y is an integer and y is more than 2 and less than 7. That is, greater than 2 and less than 7, right? So that means y should be strictly more than 2. More than 2 in the sense we can start from 3 only. So 3, 4, 5 and then up to 6. So with 6 we stop because y should be less than 7. That's why. Okay. So according to Ram, y can take these values. Fine. Okay. Let's come to the second person. And Hari knows y is an integer which is greater than 5 and less than 10. Now the second person says y is an integer which is greater than 5 but less than 10. So now according to the second person, what values can y take now? Y can take values more than 5 but less than 9. So that means, shall we list the values? Y can either be 6 or 7 or 8 or 9. That's all, right? Because strictly more than 5, that means we can start only from 6, 7, 8 and go. And up to 9, we finish there. We stop there because y should be less than 10. So this is going to be the choice of y according to the second person. So according to the first person, we had this condition and we have listed these values. And according to the second person, we have this condition greater than 5 and less than 10. This condition, and here also we have listed the values. Now what is that they're asking in the question? Let's see. Then they may correctly conclude that we have 4 options. So it is all about whether they can exactly predict the value of y. That is what they are asking in the question, and for which we have 4 options. Let's see them one by one. Option A says y can be exactly determined. Just see whether y's value can be exactly determined. So according to the first person, y can take these values 3, 4, 5, 6, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. And according to the second person, y can take these values, that is 6 or 7 or 8 or 9. Now, if both of their conditions are combined, the question is whether will they be able to get the value of y? I mean a unique value. Is it possible or not? Definitely it is possible. See here, there is a uniformity in both of their choices. See the 6, the value 6 is there in both their conditions. So that means 6 is the value of y when both of their conditions are combined. Okay. So, and let's see the other options also. Y may be either of 2 values. No, we have no doubt about it. Y is taking only one common value. So that means option B cannot be the answer. Y may be either of any 3 values. No, that is also wrong because we have only one common value and there's no value for y satisfying these conditions. That is also wrong. Sure, we are able to find one common value. So that means option A, y can be correctly determined, exactly determined is the answer for this third question. Very simple question, but with number and a kind of reasoning they have included it. Yeah, let's move to the fourth question. Yeah, next question is from a very important arithmetic topic. This is from pipes and cisterns. So here we have a question from pipes and cisterns. This is a very nice question. And this question, to solve this question, it is very much important for us to know the calculations. It is very important for you to follow the way we are doing the calculation. That is also very much important. So kindly follow how we are answering this question. Okay, how we are using the steps, the way we are using the steps, how we go step by step, the calculations we make, everything is very much important for you to understand how we are solving this question. So kindly follow this carefully. Let's go to the question. There are 4 pipes. There are 4 pipes it's given. They can fill a reservoir. Let's have it to be some tank. They are going to fill some tank in 15, 20, 30 and 60 hours respectively. So let's have it to be like this. Let's have the 4 pipes to be pipes A, B, C and D. So A is the first pipe, B is the second pipe, C the third pipe and D is the fourth pipe. Let's have it to be like this. Okay. And it is given that if A alone is working, that is if A alone tried to fill that reservoir, it takes 15 hours for the reservoir to fill. Similarly, if B alone is going to fill the tank, it takes 20 hours to fill. If C alone works, it takes 30 hours. And if D alone works, it takes 60 hours. So then you may think, out of these 4 pipes, which pipe is more efficient. What do I mean by more efficient? Efficiency means the one who is going to complete the work in a very short time is going to be very efficient. In that case, see here, this pipe A is going to be, I mean the first pipe, pipe A, is going to be much efficient than compared to the other three pipes. Are you able to understand this? Why? Because see here, pipe A is filling the tank in 15 hours, but take D, pipe D is filling the same tank in 60 hours. So that means this pipe D is working slowly. I mean, the rate of working for pipe D is lesser. It is working very slowly when we compare to pipe A. So that means I can say pipe A is working for more efficiency. Pipe A is working with more efficiency. Pipe B in efficiency, it is taking little lesser than pipe A, and pipe C is even more less efficient than C, and pipe D is much less efficient than the other three. Okay, because the more the time it is taking, the efficiency will become less. And the other way, if the time taken is very less, the efficiency is more. And if the time taken is more, the efficiency is very less. Okay. Yeah, fine. Now, what is asked in the question? Let's see. The first pipe was opened at 6 a.m. Okay. So that means the pipe A, they're opening at 6 a.m. Second pipe opened at 7 a.m. Third pipe is opened at 8 a.m. and the fourth pipe is opened at 9 a.m. So with 1 hour interval gap, they are opening all the four pipes one after the other. This is what is happening, and they are asking at what time the reservoir will be filled. This is our question. So we need to find the time, or what time exactly it will take the tank to fill. This is our question. Okay. So let's see how can this be solved. Okay. So for this is what we have to be very careful how we are using the calculations. So let's just list it here. What happens? Start from the first pipe. The first pipe is opened at 6 a.m. So this means at 6 a.m. only the first pipe is opened. Correct? Yeah. And then after, I mean after 1 hour, yeah, exactly after 1 hour, the second pipe is opened at 7 a.m. This is what is happening. So that means what we can understand is from times 6 to 7. Okay, let me write it here. From time 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., we have only that pipe A alone is working. Next is what happens next? 6 to 7 pipe A alone is working. Next is for the next 1 hour. 7 to 8, what happens is at 7 a.m. they are opening the second pipe also. From this, what we can understand? So from 7 to 8, that means for the next 1 hour, pipe A as well as B, both these pipes are working. Do you understand this? See here, at 6 a.m. they're opening pipe A alone. At 7 a.m. they're opening pipe B. So that means from 6 to 7 in that first 1 hour, pipe A alone is working. And after 7, what happens? 7 to 8, in that 1 hour interval, pipe B is open. So that means pipe A as well as B, both of them are working. Now what happens at 8 a.m.? 8 a.m. they're opening pipe 3 also, correct? The third pipe also. That means 8 to 9. All A, B, C, all the three pipes are working. And next what happens? From 9 a.m. That means from 9 a.m. I'll just have a gap here so that, yeah, after 9. After 9, we'll just write it to be after 9 because we don't know till what time it will be. Okay, after 9, I will write like this, after 9, because at 9 a.m. what happens? The fourth pipe is also open. So that means after 9, hereafter all the four pipes are working. A, B, C, D, all the four pipes are going to work, but we don't know till what time all the four pipes are going to work. That timing is what we need to find, because if we find that after 9 how many hours they are working, it will be very easy for us to determine the answer. Okay, now I have just clearly mentioned the time taken for each pipes. Everything is clear now. So now we have the solving part alone to be done. Okay, yeah, let's start from here. Yes. Now come back to our timings. Okay, because see here we have four pipes A, B, C, D, and also we know the time taken for them to fill the tank individually. Now let's do a thing. Let's just assume the capacity of the reservoir. Okay, I mean the reservoir is what is getting filled, right? So let's just assume a value for the reservoir. I mean, like, let's have it to be some units. Okay, let's have it to be some units. We'll have to take some number so that we will just assume the reservoir's capacity, I mean the tank's capacity, to be that many number of units. That's all. Okay, but what number we can take? The taking number is of our choice. Okay, but take a number such that all these numbers are just divisible. Okay, all these numbers, I mean the number what I'm going to take here for the units, I can just divide that number by all these numbers. So what number is a suitable number? Just think of the numbers, see the numbers 15, 20, 30, 60. Think a number or come out with a number which is common to all these numbers. So what number we can take? This is what they call it as LCM in mathematics. Okay, so we'll have to go think, or we'll have to go get the LCM of these four numbers. Let's not complicate what is that LCM. Okay, let's just see the biggest number out of these four. Okay, 15, 20, 30, 60. 60 appears to be the largest number here. Just check whether 60 is divisible by the other three. Do you understand? Whether I can divide 60 by the other three numbers. Is it possible? 60 by 15. Yes, sure, it is divisible. 60 by 20 is also divisible. 60 by 30 is also divisible. Sure. So that means, no doubt, we can take this capacity as 60 units itself. So that means the capacity of the tank which these pipes are filling is of 60 units. That's all. Okay. Now you may wonder, what happens if you have the largest number which is not divisible? Okay, that time what we have to do is we'll have to undergo some different kind of calculation. When it comes, we can surely do it. Okay, as of now, for this problem, our task has ended very easily. See here, the 60 itself is divisible by all the other numbers, so our problem ended to be very easy. So let's work with the 60 itself and see. Okay, now it's the time for us to calculate the efficiency for each of these pipes. See here, pipe A is taking 15 hours to fill this 60 units. So that means what I can say, pipe A will take in 1 hour, pipe A will fill how many units in 1 hour? That we have to think. Let me repeat it. Pipe A is filling 60 units in 15 hours. This is what is the meaning, right? Because we assume the capacity to be 60 units. Just think of pipe A is taking 60 units to fill 15 hours. Then it will fill how many units in 1 hour? This is what we need, because this is what is efficiency. Okay, so for which what we can do, 60 by 15 we can do. 60 by 15 will give us 4. So that means pipe A is capable of filling 4 units in 1 hour. Now think of, if pipe A can fill 4 units in 1 hour, so 4 units in every 1 hour, it is filling, for every 1 hour it can fill 4 units, 4 units, 4 units. So that means in 15 hours it can fill all the 60 units. Do you understand this? This is what is efficiency. In 1 hour or in 1 day, how many units of work is done? This is called the efficiency. Okay, so this is what we have to calculate. Now come here, B. Second pipe B is taking 20 hours to fill the same 60 units. Now for B, how many units per hour we can have? See here, B can fill the same 60 units in 20 hours. So that means 60 by 20 will give us 3. So that means B's efficiency is 3 units per hour. Do you understand this? Because if B can fill 3 units in 1 hour, so that means it will take 20 hours to fill the 60 units, because 3 into 20 will give us 60. That's it. Similarly for C, how much units it will take for 1 hour? It's very easy for us to see. 60 by 30 will give us 2 units. So that means C will take 2 units per hour. That is, C's efficiency is 2 units per hour. And last one, D. D takes 60 units to fill 60 hours. So that means D's speed is, or D's efficiency is 1 unit per hour. Now see here, we got all the 4 pipes capacity, or all the 4 pipes efficiency. So you have to say it as efficiency. All the 4 pipes efficiency, we have clearly got it here itself. And as we guessed, see here, A's efficiency is what is more. Then next to A, we have B's efficiency, then C's efficiency, and D is the last one. That is, D is what is less efficient than compared to all the other 3 pipes. Okay, yeah, fine. Now our task is very easy. This is our setup. Now it will be very easy for us to go with the problem and get the answer. Fine, yes. And remember, our total work which we have to finish is 60 units. Okay, because that is how we assume 60 units is the capacity of the tank. So we must fill all the 60 units. Now let's come to the calculation. See, we have 6 to 7, 7 to 8, everything we have done here, right? We have done the calculations, right? Let's complete the calculations now. Let's come here. Yeah. Now see, Step by step. See here 6 to 7. Okay, for the first 1 hour 6 to 7, which pipe is working? Pipe A alone is working. So for pipe A alone, how many units it will fill? It will fill only 4 units. See here, because A's efficiency is 4 units in 1 hour. So here also our time is 1 hour. So in that 6 to 7 1 hour, A can fill 4 units. We'll note it here. Next, what about next 1 hour 7 to 8? For the next 1 hour, see here A and B, both these two pipes are working. Is it or not? Because 7 to 8, we see here pipe A and pipe B, both of them are working. So that means for this 1 hour, we have to take the efficiency of both A as well as B. So that means for this 1 hour, what happens is 7 to 8, 4 plus 3, that is 7 units of work will be finished. Okay, yeah, 7 units. Now come to the next 1 hour 8 to 9. In this 8 to 9 1 hour gap, see here A, B, C, these 3 pipes are getting worked. So that means for this 1 hour, we have to take the 3 pipes, 4, 3, 2, everything should be added. So 4 plus 3 plus 2, this will give us 9 units. Is it or not? So 9 units. Yeah, 9 units. So for first 3 hours, I mean 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, everything we calculated. Now let us see overall 6 to 9. Overall 6 to 9 for the entire 3 hours, how much units is filled? So if you see 6 to 7, we got 4 units, 7 to 8, we got 7 units, and 8 to 9, we got 9 units. So totally how many units are finished? We can see 20 units of work are finished. Now see how many units are remaining. This is what we have to calculate. See here, as we assumed in the beginning itself, our capacity was 60 units. See here itself, 60 units. And out of those 60 units, we have now got how many units in the remaining? See, from 6 to 9 for the first 3 hours, 20 units are filled. That means remaining would be how much? The total 60 minus the filled 20. That means we have remaining 40 units which are to be filled. Now this 40 units are filled after 9 by how many pipes? By all the 4 pipes. Okay, A, B, C, D. Now see here, A, B, C, D is working at a time. So if A, B, C, D, all 4 are working at a time, then it means their combined efficiency is how much, that we have to calculate. Okay, so what would be their combined efficiency? Combined efficiency will become 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. Let's just take it here. Okay, so if all the 4 pipes A, B, C, D are all working, so in 1 hour, how many units of work is finished? 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. So that means it will give us 10 unit per hour. So if it is 10 unit per hour, then how much time it would take? Now let us try to calculate that time. Okay, so time taken will be equal to time equal to, so how many units? How many units which are to be finished is pending? 40 units are pending, divided by, it is happening at what rate or what efficiency? 10 unit per hour. So 10 dividing it by 10. So that means how many hours it will take? 4 hours it will take. Do you understand this? I can make you understand it in very simple terms. See, after 9, I have four pipes. All the 4 pipes are working. See here, A, B, C, D. All the 4 pipes are working. A, B, C, D. I know A alone can do, or A alone can fill 4 units in 1 hour. I know B alone can fill 3 units in 1 hour. C alone 2 units and D alone 1 unit in 1 hour. Everything in 1 hour. So if all 4 pipes are working, it means in 1 hour they all can fill 10 units. So they will work at a speed of 10 units in 1 hour. I mean 10 units per hour. So if all 4 of them are working, every 1 hour they will fill 10 units, 10 units, 10 units like this. But how many work we have pending? How much work we have pending? I mean, how many units of work we have pending? We have remaining to be 40 units. Is it or not? Now, if they can do 10 units in every 1 hour, then how many hours it will take for them to complete this 40 units? That calculation is what we are doing here. 40 by 10. 40 by 10 will give us 4 hours. So that means after 9, see here, this is what we are calculating, right? So after 9, it will take 4 hours for them to complete the work. So now you yourself can calculate after 9 a.m. because it is morning, right? Yeah, after 9 a.m. everything is a.m. only, right? Let's just check the question. Yeah, sure. Everything is given in terms of AM only. So after 9 AM, how much time it is taking? 4 hours. Okay, after 9 AM, 4 hours it will take. So that means you yourself can calculate. After 9 AM, 4 hours, what time we will have? We'll just calculate it. After 9 AM, 10, 10 AM, 11 AM, 12 AM, and 1 PM. So that means 4 hours it will be 1 PM. So at 1 PM, the entire work will get finished, completed. So that means 1 PM, which is matching with option C, is going to be the correct answer for our question. So of course, a very long question. This kind of questions actually usually in other exams they will be giving, but rarely these kind of questions may appear in UGC Net paper 1 also. So whenever this kind of pipes and systems, time and work questions are given to you, it is important for us to clearly understand the question, then immediately go assume the total work, and with that you just try to find out the efficiencies of each of these persons or each of these pipes. This is how we usually do. Then go get the calculation and get the final answer. This is how we get the answer. Okay, yes, just have a view, you can surely understand this problem. Yeah, fine. Let's move on to the next set of question. So here we have a question which is based on graph, pie chart. We have a pie chart question. Okay, so here this question is based on pie chart. So we have actually two questions here. So question numbers 5 and 6. So I will name this questions as question number 5 and this one question number 6. I'm numbering like this. And let's see what is asked here in this question. So basically we will just see what is given here. Total electricity generation in a country is given to be 97 gigawatts. Okay, 97 gigawatts. The contribution of various energy sources is indicated in terms of percentage in this below pie chart. Okay, so actually there are 4 different departments you can see here. Nuclear power, they are actually contributing 3%, and wind and solar energy is contributing 7%, hydropower 20%, fossil fuels they contribute 70%. And we have the total electricity generation also. Totally how much units are generated? 97 gigawatts of current is generated, of electricity is generated. Okay, so and for which is what is given the breakup here. Okay, nuclear, wind and solar, hydropower and fossil. Okay, so everything is given to us. Now let's go see the question. Okay, yeah, yes, question number 5. Let's try the question number 5. So what is the contribution of wind and solar power in terms of absolute? I mean in absolute terms in electricity generation. Okay, in terms of the gigawatts we have to give the answer. What is the contribution of wind and solar power is what they're asking. Wind and solar power, we have to look the pie chart. See here, wind and solar energy, we have 7%. So that means we need to calculate 7%. So that is 7 by 100 into what's the total? Total, we already know that it is given here itself. Total is how many? 97 gigawatts. You can see it here itself. Okay, see the total generation is 97. Here you can see it. So let's take the same value here, 97. So 7%, that means 7 by 100 of 97. This calculation we have to complete and then get the answer. So let's see what is the answer we are getting. So let's do a thing. Let's try to do 7 into 97. Okay, 7 into 97. 7 sevens are, it will be 49. I'll put the 9 here, and 4 will be a carry over here. Okay, and the next 7 nines are 63. 63 plus 4 will give us 67. Right. So 679 is what we are getting. But 679 under which we have 100. So 679 by 100. This simplification would give us the answer. We need not divide it at all because we just divide it by 100 only, right? So it's very easy for us to divide a number by 100. We need to just take 2 decimal places to the left hand side. Okay, we have 679 by 100. Just push our value to 2 decimal places. So 1 place and 2 place. So that means we end up with 6 6.79. I think you are able to understand this. We got 679 by 100 because we have two zeros, right? 100 is of two zeros. So that means we have to move two decimal places. So that means we'll have the point here between the 6 and 7. That's what we have written here, 6.79, because the 79 which is what we are crossing the decimal point. Okay, so 6.79 gigawatts is going to be the answer, which is matching with option A. This is going to be the answer. Let me encircle it. Yes, fine. Coming to the second question, coming to the sixth question, second question of this chart, and this is sixth question. So here the question asks, what is the contribution of renewable energy sources in absolute terms in the electricity generation? So here we are asked to find the contribution of renewable energy sources. So out of these four energy forces, this nuclear power, wind, solar energy, hydropower, and fossil fuels, we should find out the contribution given by the renewable energy sources. So I actually browsed it from online. I took it online. See these sources. These sources actually gives me what are going to be the energy sources, renewable energy sources and non-renewable energy sources. Okay, it is clearly giving me. And here in this list we have solar energy, wind energy. So that means this wind and solar energy we can take it under renewable source. And anything else do we have? Yeah, this hydro energy also. See, this hydro also we can take it into account. And what about this nuclear power, fossil fuels? See here, nuclear power, fossil fuels, nuclear power. See the second one, the second image. Here we have these energies to be non-renewable. Okay, so this online source is clearly giving us solar energy, wind energy, hydro energy. All these are all renewable sources, but this fossil fuels and then nuclear energy, these are all non-renewable. So that means only these two things we can take it into account. Okay, only these two categories we can take it into account. See the two categories, they are from wind and solar, that is of 7%, and hydropower, that is of 20%. Is it or not? So that means we have this renewable sources which is appearing with, one is wind and solar energy, that is what I have underlined here itself. Okay, wind and solar energy which is of 7%, hydropower which is of 20%. So that means 7% plus 20%. So totally 27% is what we have to calculate. So 27% of, so 27 by 100 into same total is 97. So this is what we are supposed to calculate. Okay, yeah, fine. So this calculation, when we complete, we'll be able to get the answer. So as usual, let's try to do a thing. Let us multiply this 27 into 97. Let me take this space to work the problem. 27 into 97. Okay. Let me use the 2 cross 2 method to do this multiplication process. First is 7 sevens are. 7 sevens are is 49. So put 9. 4 is the carryover. I'll put the 4 here. Next, I'll just make a cross here. That is 2 sevens are is 14 and 9 sevens are is 63. 2 sevens are is 14 and 9 sevens are is 63. Up along with that 4 carryover. Okay. So when I add it, I will be getting, this is 77. This is 81. So 8. So 81 I will be getting. 81 means this time I have to put 1 here and my 8 will be the new carryover. Okay. 8 will be the new carryover. I will erase. I will take this extra space. Okay. 8 will be the new carryover. Let me put that 8 here. And last step is 2 nines are 18. 18 plus this 8. So actually I got 2 nines are 18 plus this carryover 8 will give us 18 plus 8 is 26. So 2619 is our answer. So 2619 by 100 is going to be the answer. And this on simplification will give us 2 decimal places. As usual, we have to come out with 2 decimal places. So 2 decimal places will give us 26.19 GW, gigawatts. So which is matching with option B. And that means that is our answer. Okay. So simple. 5 and 6 is very simple. We can just do, we have to just do percentage calculation. Okay. This is involving much of arithmetic calculations. That arithmetic calculations alone we have to carefully do. Just multiplication is what we have to do. We need to be very strong with multiplication tables that I've insisted you many times. So just be careful with this calculation things, and that will easily help you to get the answer. And at the same time, this question number 6 is what is involving a little knowledge of knowing about what about renewable sources and what are not non-renewable sources. Okay, for which I've taken the sources online. So let me do a thing. I can even attach the link which is giving you these sources. I'll just post that link in the description box of this video. Okay, yeah. Any other questions we have? Last one more question given here. So this is the last question from this question paper, question number 7, and it's a very easy question only. 10 is the mean of a set of 7 observations. Yeah, so that means it's a question based on mean, that is average. Okay, so for 10 numbers or 10 observations, okay, so for 10 numbers or 10 observations, the average is 7. And what next? And 5 is the mean of, oh sorry, I've just swapped it, right? I'm extremely sorry. So it is given to be 10 is the mean of 7 observations. So for 7 observations, the mean is, the average is 10. And what next is given? Next, 5 is the mean of a set of 3 observations. So for the next 3 observations, the average is, the average is how much? Average is 5. So this is what is given in the question. Okay, this is the proper meaning. So there are actually, how many observations can you see? There are totally 10 observations are here. Okay, you can have it to be some 10 observations. For the first 7 observations, the average is 10. And for the last 3 observations, the average is 5. The question is very simple. Then what is the mean of the combined set? This is my question. Okay, so combined set in the sense, for all the 10 observations, what is the overall average? This is what they're asking. For all the 10 observations, this first 7, next 3, all we put together, total 10 observations, what is the overall average? This is our question. Okay, let's now see how can we solve this. It's very easy. Okay, for which basically we should know what is average. Average means what is the total by how many numbers are there, how many number of observations are there. Okay, number of observations. So total by number of observations will give you what is the average. Okay, but here in this question we have what is the average, and we also know what is the observation, number of observation. So let's do a thing. Let's try to find the total. Okay, so that means what happens? Total will become average multiplied by number of observations. I think you are able to understand. If I have to find average, I should divide total by observations. Whereas if I want to find what is the total, I need to multiply average with number of observations. See here, I know for the first data here, there are 7 observations and average for them is 10. So that means what would be the total for the first 7 observations? It would be this 10 into this 7. So 10 sevens will give you 70. Yeah, fine. And what about the next 3 observations? For the next 3 observations, the average is given to be 5. That means for this 3 observations, what is the total? 5 3s are 15. See here, I'm just doing 7 into 10. That gave me this 70. And I did 3 into 5. That gave me this 15. Actually, why am I multiplying? I'm just multiplying because of this. I need to find the total. That's why. Total is equal to average into number of observations. That's why. Okay. Yeah, fine. Now, all we need to find is what is the overall average of all the 10 observations. This is my question. So that means what I need the overall total. For the first 7, the total is 70. For the next 3, the total is 15. So that means what is the overall total? I can just add it and then give you 85. Very simple, right? Yeah. So that means what is the average of these 10 observations? Now what we need to do? Now we need to calculate what is the average. So how we calculate the average? Average is nothing but total. What is the total of all the 10 observations? It is 85. So 85 divided by number of observations. How many observations are here? For overall, we have 10 observations. So 85 by 10, that would give you 8 8.5 because it is just one decimal place we have to move to the left hand side. So it will give you 8.5 and 8.5 is matching with option B, 8.5. That's all. We have completed all the questions here. And I think we had a very long session here in solving this 2012 June arithmetic and reasoning questions. So we have very challenging questions also. We saw some new varieties of question from different topics. So even if you have any doubts, you can sure post it in your comments. You are welcome for that. And again, in the next session, we'll meet with other set of questions. See you soon there. Thank you so much. Bye.